The Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. That was a lie. The Wuhan lab leak theory was fringe and a conspiracy theory. Lie. The Steele dossier fueling the Trump-Russia collusion narrative. Lie. Jussie Smollett racism incident. Lie. And these are only a few examples of lies pushed by the media.
The following is a public service message from Pathological Liars Anonymous.
Hello, my name is Tommy Flanagan, and I'm a member of Pathological Liars Anonymous. In fact, I'm the president of that organization.
Mainstream media walks back the narratives, but not until the damage is already done. Perhaps that's why Americans' trust in media remains near a record low, according to a recent Gallup poll. But there are more dire consequences of this propaganda pushing by corporate and federally controlled media. The lies prey upon voters, creating a cycle of election interference that ends up affecting our daily lives. Bringing you what's ignored, sensationalized, misleading, or just plain false. Here's your media malfeasance for the week. Propaganda perpetrated by the media isn't anything new, as revealed by Operation Mockingbird, involving the CIA paying journalists to write fake stories and spread propaganda instead of real news. As noted by The Defender, in 1977, a Washington Post reporter described full-time CIA agents who worked as journalists and more than 400 U.S. journalists who secretly carried out assignments for the CIA over a 25-year period. What makes this method even more dangerous today is the coordination between the media, the government, and social media companies, not only to push narratives, but to make sure you don't see anything that would question them. Now there is evidence social media companies have hired ex-CIA and FBI agents to censor content. Can these companies that act as digital town squares still be considered private with so much government influence on what can be seen or shared? Hashtag DHS leaks was trending on Twitter this week, thanks to a report from The Intercept.
We know that companies like Facebook and Twitter have been working closely with the Biden administration to, quote, curb speech that the administration doesn't approve of. Emails also show that Twitter's top censor, Vijay Gadde, which was fired by Elon Musk, met every month with the Biden administration censors at DHS to talk about new ways to get you to shut up in unconstitutional fashion. Lee Fang broke this story. He's an investigative journalist at The Intercept. He joins us tonight. Lee, thanks so much for coming on. This seems like a really important story, which is for some reason being ignored. Do we get the outlines right?
Thanks for having me.
The administration is working with the tech companies to censor people.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Tucker, we looked at really hundreds of documents that paint a vivid picture of the FBI, the DHS, closely collaborating with the top social media platforms, Twitter and Facebook, to censor various forms of content under the banner of fighting disinformation. And the story shows a couple of things. One, it shows what you just mentioned, a very cozy relationship between the government and these tech giants. There's those monthly meetings that you just mentioned, but also just very cozy emails and texts. Not a very adversarial relationship. You know, we looked at one text where Microsoft executive texts Jen Easterly, the top disinfo director at DHS appointed by Biden, basically saying the private sector needs to get more comfortable with the government. They're closely collaborating on reports talking about the expanded role for DHS.
And for anyone who is looking to Elon Musk to rein back the authoritarian government control over information, not so fast. National File. Musk grovels to the ADL and will enforce their censorship agenda. Twitter will continue to combat hate and harassment and enforce its election integrity policies, Musk announced, coming almost immediately after he received a direct threat from the ADL, who claimed Musk would face dire consequences if he reinstated President Trump's account and allowed free speech to flourish on the Twitter platform. But Musk soon realizes nothing is good enough for the powerful elite, tweeting this on Friday. Twitter has had a massive drop in revenue due to activist groups pressuring advertisers, even though nothing has changed with content moderation, and we did everything we could to appease the activists. Extremely messed up. They're trying to destroy free speech in America. And now the Daily Caller says big tech is funding a literal roadmap for illegal immigrants to enter the country. Doctors Without Borders is handing out these maps to migrants that show several different routes to the U.S. border. PJ Media reports 5.5 million illegals have crossed into the U.S. on Biden's watch. Among them, we've come to find out it was not the Lake campaign behind Katie Hobbs' HQ burglary, the accusation most news took and ran with. but rather an illegal immigrant.
Last week, Katie Hobbs accused me of orchestrating a Watergate-style break-in of her office. The media, who salivates over any opportunity to tear down conservatives, immediately pounced on her lies and ran them as truth.
Stunning developments in the countdown to Election Day as early ballots are already being counted as we speak.
Burglary at Katie Hobbs' campaign headquarters.
Hobbs's Trump-backed Republican opponent, Carrie Lake.
It's a direct result of Carrie Lake and fringe Republicans.
The secretary has faced hundreds of death threats.
So this person must have known that what they were looking for.
Well, the real truth has come to light, and I, along with my team, have been vindicated. Not only did we have absolutely nothing to do with that crime, the left's own dead-end policies are to blame for crimes like this. What we have here is a repeat offender, a career criminal who is here in our country illegally. And now the media is forced to correct themselves. You may say, well, Carrie, they did get it right and they corrected the story. What does it matter? Well, the truth matters. How many people filled out their ballot during the time period that the fake news media was painting me as a Nixon-style burglar?
Well, I'm not a crook.
It's bogus stories like this that have completely stripped any legitimacy away from the media.
It's the same playbook with the Paul Pelosi attack. Blame the opposition party. Biden stokes the division in a speech on Wednesday night, and the perp is here illegally, according to CNN. Oh, but we're not allowed to even, as journalists, ask any questions about that, even though the story has changed multiple times. In an earlier story, Politico mentions an unknown person opened the door to police. Now NBC is reporting a different narrative.
After a knock and announce, the front door was opened by Mr. Pelosi. The 82-year-old did not immediately declare an emergency or try to leave his home, but instead began walking several feet back into the foyer toward the assailant and away from police.
We still don't know exactly what unfolded between Mr. Pelosi and the suspect for the 30 minutes they were alone inside that house before police arrived. Officials who were investigating this matter would not go into further details about these new details.
Except then NBC News removed this report with an editor's note saying it did not meet its reporting standards. Do they mean standards or directives? How is a nudist activist able to get past Capitol Police enhanced security for the third in line to the president's home? Just the News notes Capitol Police had a live video feed going but didn't notice a break-in. The quickest way to dispel any conspiracy theories would be to release body cams and the security footage. But will we ever see it?
And I think this is the most important point about all of this, which is how many millions of people have been conditioned to believe that it's immoral or even some kind of reflection of mental illness, like you're a conspiracy theorist, if you don't immediately and unquestionably accept whatever story is told to you by institutions of authority. And the amazing thing about that, Tucker, is that this framework is being constructed by journalists, people whose primary purpose in life is supposed to be to question and challenge the claims of the powerful, and instead they're demonizing anybody who does so. Skepticism itself can never be wrong. Skepticism says there's evidentiary holes and there's faulty reasoning in what we're being told. Even if evidence does emerge later on to prove it, the skepticism itself was not just valid but necessary.
There has been a meltdown for the supposed politically fueled attack on Pelosi, but has the media equitably treated politically fueled attacks on the right? Where was the heavy-handed condemnation for the man accused of attempting to kill Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh? What about the man who admitted to killing an 18-year-old with his car, saying the teen was a Republican extremist? Or when GOP gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin was attacked over the summer by a man with a knife? Have you heard much about the shots fired at a North Carolina GOP candidate's home while his children were sleeping? Or from Epoch Times, a man charged with threatening to kill a Republican Illinois senator who is running for governor. There are numerous other examples either ignored or memory holed by MSM. And while the New York Times had egg on its face for characterizing those questioning ties between a CEO of an election software company and servers in China as conspiracy theorists, only to have that CEO arrested the very next day, Now the Biden regime has had those responsible for exposing this election-related malfeasance arrested. Also this week, The Atlantic is being ridiculed for this article asking to declare a pandemic amnesty, forgive one another for what was said and done during COVID. Like this article where The Atlantic demanded unvaxxed should be put on a no-fly list? Or perhaps when others said unvaxxed should be refused treatment or life-saving organs at hospitals. Lauren Chen tweets, "Forgiveness usually comes after an apology. I see no apology in this piece. Remember how you encouraged family members to pressure each other and the unvaxxed to be fired? Perhaps a little 'I'm sorry for that' would be a good start." And to wrap up, after CNN's Don Lemon gets demoted, his morning show is now tanking, according to the American Tribune. Jake Tapper is losing his primetime spot, all after Brian Stelter was fired. And now Tiffany Cross is out at MSNBC, according to Variety. Goes to show you, sensationalism and lies do not pay in the end. With your media malfeasance for the week, I'm Christy Lee. Be sure to share this widely and subscribe to my Locals community to stay connected. ChristyLeeTV.locals.com.